we have a massive problem. And it's with this truck right here, but not only this truck, but pretty much all newer vehicles. And we'll strap in because this topic has ignited quite a comment section in a TikTok video I made recently, getting over 60,000 views, and a lot of people agreed with what I had to say. And I'm also going to give you guys a little bit of an update on this truck, as I promised in the last video. Cold start. It's bone stock. I don't know why I have to still say that every time. I said in my video, all new vehicles are junk. Basically, anything that's coming into the market, any car that you can buy other than the select few that have not yet been updated, are complete garbage. Because of quote-unquote EPA regulations, these companies are now coming out with high-strung, small displacement motors, and those have been failing quite frequently in the last couple of years. I'm having some issues on the Bronco, and the things that I'm having problems with is the insane amount of technology, the insane amount of tech features, wiring, and over-engineering and over-complication on literally every single part. Hondas, Toyotas, Fords, BMWs, you can name any car manufacturer across the board. Pretty much all of them are currently producing straight garbage. Now, in the past, we did talk about recalls and recalls with the Bronco, and it might sound like I'm contradicting myself in a way, but this is a completely different issue than what I was talking about previously. The issues I was talking about previously, people bring up the Bronco having, 20 different recalls. If you look at what the Bronco had recalls for, everything I said still remains to be true. There was one major failure that these engines were having that was fixed. That was affected less than a couple hundred vehicles at the time. And the rest of the recalls that these trucks were having aren't motor related or any failure from Ford. The rest of the issues actually come from the EPA and the government regulations that Ford has failed to abide by, or that were changed and the trucks needed to get changed. Keep in mind, regulations change every single year, but I'm not gonna sit here and act like this truck isn't over-engineered and over-complicated and something that is going to last an insane amount of time. I think the Bronco is still one of the better vehicles that's come out, and I might be partially biased just because I do own one, and maybe I'm less scared of it because I do own it. But when you look at things like modern day Audis and BMWs and all the technology that they're feeding into those cars and everything that can fail, it is insane to me how we're still buying some of these trucks and cars. And with this Bronco, I've learned a lot about newer vehicles because this is really the first vehicle and the only vehicle I've owned in this facelift period that we're currently seeing. I honestly think that Ford did a really good job with the Bronco. A lot of people would disagree, but I think those people are just biased and they don't actually know anything about these trucks because they did a really good job with it. The problem lies, however, not just with Ford, but with all manufacturers right now. Now, this doesn't have a small displacement engine, quote unquote, but it does have a turbocharged engine. And as we can tell, even Toyota right now is having issues with turbocharged applications. Now, just like the media did with the Bronco's 1 week engine failure, I'm sure Toyota is having the exact same thing, where the media makes everything way worse than it has to be. But if we do take a look underneath this Bronco, I mean, look how complicated all of this looks. All of this stuff almost makes this Bronco completely unserviceable to someone who is not a master technician. If we look at cars that are currently 15 years old, they have good technology features in them, but at the same time, their engines aren't as complicated as something like this. This is completely over-engineered. I'm sure that most people with enough time and patience could work out exactly what needs to go where, but it's not made for an everyday person to diagnose a problem going on inside of this vehicle. That's the big problem with modern day cars. Not only are they engineered to break, but they are so overly complicated that you can't work on them yourselves. The problems with my Bronco all started at the beginning of this year. The Bronco was refusing to start. The truck still refuses occasionally to not remote start, and at the same time, if I come into the truck and I press this button right here, there are multiple occasions where the engine just will not shut off. For the most part, the engine has been always turning on, and it's been running good, but for some reason I go press the button and it won't shut off. It is the weirdest thing ever, and I made a video about this in the past, and it's done it multiple times. This truck has been in the service bay and out of the service bay a handful of times at this point, and I don't want to go too much into detail because I'm not sure legally what I'm allowed to say about the actions I'm going to take in the future, but there are certain programs, and I think you guys know exactly what I'm talking about, that protect first-time car buyers. And that's pretty much the only good thing about buying a new car, is you have those certain programs and warranties out of the factory. In order to make the most amount of money, all new car manufacturers are trying to make vehicles that break. They're trying to make these cars, as soon as the warranty period is over, start breaking. Break a diff, have technology failure, have the whole transmission go out. Whatever it is, they have major problems. And this is, in fact, in every single manufacturer, and I don't want to hear that, oh, maybe it's because you bought a Ford. Ford, Chevy, Chrysler. Chrysler is probably the worst of all of it. BMW, they have issues. All of the manufacturers have issues. And the German cars right now are actually probably the best out of the bunch, because their engineering has always been over-engineered and we're kind of used to it. But the quality of materials in the German cars, for the most part, is always top tier unless you're buying one of their cheaper cars. Whatever OEM that we want to talk about, whatever OEM you want to bring up, we can bring up countless amounts of failures that they've had. And there's multiple reasons. It's not just one straight reason for these OEMs to be producing this garbage. There are three big reasons when it comes down to it, as far as what I think. Number one is the EPA is pushing these manufacturers to build smaller engines. I still think that these engineers could build high quality, long lasting, good fuel economy engines with aerodynamic engineering. Focus on the aero, build a good engine that's going to last a long time. They can do it. They 100% can do it, but they won't, because number two, obviously they want to make money. It is all about money at the end of the day. Number three almost falls into the same category as number two, but in order to make more money, they cut corners with their parts and start to use much cheaper quality materials in their cars. And also at the same time, in order to make the most money, they pack the most tech into them. Because if you're an enthusiast, you're looking at it like, we don't want that. But the thing is, most consumers actually do. At the end of the day, all the companies right now are just trying to do the best for their shareholders and trying to stay afloat. Because clearly EV vehicles for every single company other than maybe Porsche, because they're heavily invested in Rivian themselves, and Tesla, just is not working. And obviously Chinese manufacturers have not found their way into America just yet. Now, I do think that all of this is also impartial to start selling electric cars. If we make them more complicated, we make the gas cars worse, people will have to buy electric cars because they're more simple, have less issues, and then they can actually, you know, just say, oh, after 5 years you need a new car because the batteries don't last. Electric cars are more complicated. I'm not an EV hater. I understand what they're doing. I just don't think it should be the only option, and I also don't think that it's a 100% feasible option to do 80 or even 50% EV on the road right now. But now you can go out and buy a $200,000 Escalade. That $200,000 Escalade should, oh, you know, I'm spending, you know, as much as my house on a truck. This should get me up to at least 250,000 miles without any issues. But you'd be wrong. Most of them will not be able to do that because something will break and it's engineered to break. So when it breaks, you bring it to the dealer and they say, oh, did you know, by the way, you ran out of warranty about a year and a half ago or 6 months ago or 3 months ago? You ever thought about buying a new one? And then you buy a new one. That's what they want, and that's what it is all about. Now, there's still a handful of cars that are newer that you can still buy and work on and maintain and are still good vehicles. But the things like the new Land Cruiser that are coming out, the new engine they're putting in the 4Runners, the new diesels, don't get me started on diesel, but even if we go look at Ford, the new F-150, the new 250, we go look at the Mustangs, they had a Coyote platform. And the Coyote motor itself was a phenomenal engine that didn't have problems. Unfortunately, they cheaped out on the clutches in the previous generation. We look at the new one and they're having engine problems in the new one. But the lifespan of new cars is now 3 to 5 years. Now, I want to know what you guys think, and if I'm completely off base, let me know. But realistically, they are engineering all of these newer cars to fail. They are so overcomplicated. It's insane. Now, I'm not even gonna get into diesels in this video, but they're trying to put DEF in new cars, and I think that basically encapsulates everything that I've been trying to say in this video. Now, just before I close out this video, I think I did a bad job of actually trying to explain what's happening with my truck other than the issue. It won't turn on, it won't turn off sometimes, I don't have electric start, and I've been battling this issue with Ford for the last couple of months. The truck has gone in, I believe, 4 times now, and it's been unoperational for about, I want to say 20 or 30 days. In most states, if your vehicle is unoperable for over 30 days, it's less than 2 years old, there's a certain law, if you're the original owner, called the Lemon Law. I'm not going to go into exactly what's happening with my vehicle because I have filed some papers for a process. If you know what I mean, you know what I mean. I don't know legally what I'm allowed to say and what I'm not allowed to say at this moment. As soon as I know what's happening and when I can say something, I will tell you guys. At the end of the day, the truck is working right now, but there was a point when the Bronco was sitting as a brick inside of the driveway. And not once, but twice, I have had to physically tow my truck to the Ford dealership, and it's completely unacceptable. The Lexus currently isn't here. The Lexus is the perfect example of a vehicle that you should buy. In the next video, we will see a Lexus update, a 3-year update, touching on a few things with that car, and before long, we will also have a video with an update on the RX-7 and the Miata, and the BMW is coming back. That's all I'll say for now. Make sure to subscribe, leave a like on this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.